when I started doing these one-on-one podcasts, one of the first guys that came to my mind was a guy I worked with in radio when I was first starting out, in Toby Rowland. He's a good friend. I'd known him for a long time, about as long as anybody in the business. Both kind of the same age, kind of grew up together in this. But I'd say Toby and Curtis Fitzpatrick, all kind of went through some of the same ups and downs together, getting into this business. And Toby is he's doing great. He's the voice of the Sooners now, has a morning show on KREF radio that actually butts up against mine with the Morning Animals, but we still remain friends. And wanted a chance to really get down to earth with Toby in a podcast like this, talk about some of our thoughts on, well, Toby was really fascinated with the media in Oklahoma City, which it is kind of a fascinating subject, maybe for us, maybe not so much for the casual fan, but we talked a lot about that. But Bob Stoops and kind of our relationships with him and how they've changed over the years and how Bob Stoops has changed over the years. And I really wanted to see if Toby would talk about a part of his life where he was given the job as the Oklahoma City Thunder sideline reporter, kind of had that ripped away from him by a place that we worked for. It was really interesting getting to hear his take on that and hear him. I really appreciate him kind of opening up a little bit and talking about that. But just you'll hear from him, but just a major disappointment for him professionally. It all ended up working out great, and I was also really enjoyed the conversation hearing him talk about his relationship with Joe Castiglione and how much time he actually spends in the broadcast booth during games. That was surprising to me even a little bit. So want to thank Toby for coming in studio and spending an hour with us just to talk about everything about sports, about being the voice of the Sooners and his journey along in broadcasting, growing up, his family, things like that. So without further ado, it's our next one-on-one series with Toby Rowland. All right, so last time we did kind of a little one-on-one podcast. It was with Jason Kersey from the Oklahoma after he left to go to Arkansas, where apparently he's very happy because Brett Bielema's a fantastic quote.
How'd it go with Kersey?
Thank you. That voice you heard is Toby Rowland.
Oh, I haven't been introduced yet.
You haven't been introduced yet. What, I thought you were in radio.
Oh, sorry. I'll wait my turn. Well, I don't know what you did before. I'm sure you had a... were you with Josh and Eddie, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to have Toby on today"?
I did say that. It's a whole produced thing. When all of us get together, I paid a big voice guy to say.
I've heard your
our
podcast.
Names. You have? Okay.
Yeah, I listened to.
I don't know why you would listen to my podcast.
I listened to the one before this on the way down, just to get a feel for it. And it was awesome. There was a great story about the beheading of a goat.
It was very disturbing.
Little Dre.
You know LP Pinnell, right?
I know the name. I don't think we worked at the same time. Okay. Did we? Was I there at the same time?
If you knew him, you would just say, yeah, that makes sense.
That's really bad if he's listening to this and we were like best friends or something. I don't think we were.
He interned for 3 years or something.
There's a lot of Draymond Green Snapchat talk on there. Yeah. So I think this is maybe the riskiest thing I've ever done is be on your podcast.
What's the worst word you've ever said on radio?
You accidentally say things sometimes. I mispronounced Marshall Faulk's name on a television broadcast one time. But
I can see where that would go. Yeah.
But you're not saying that. You're saying I actually said a word and said I wish I could have it back.
Well, a word that might be okay by FCC regulations, but in the Toby Rowland household. Well, first off, let me. I
don't curse. You know that.
I know you don't. And Barry Trammell, I didn't think did, but I've heard him curse.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah.
What'd that sound like?
I'll tell you the story.
Was it awkward coming out of his mouth?
It was in a room full of people.
What word was it?
BS.
Shut up. Are you serious?
Yeah. See, and I don't want to be the one to break this podcast, Barry. I want to keep a sense of I think people listen to me on the Sports Animal and they think, oh, well, that guy probably cusses a lot, behind the scenes.
By the way, if I wasn't sitting here right now, you totally would have said the word, right? On this podcast, you would say it, right?
I don't think it's too strong for this podcast.
Okay.
I am trying to be respectful. Because, first, let me just reset real quick.
I know what the answer to the question is, by the way.
Toby Rowland, the voice of the Sooners, Are you used to hearing that, by the way? Following your name every time it's said?
It is weird.
So Toby Rowland, voice of the Sooners.
There's like a label with your title, which that doesn't come with a lot of jobs. So
yeah.
it's a little odd.
He is our podcast guest. Toby and I used to do radio together, and it was the only thing that really made that job bearable, working for that company.
6 to 7, right?
6 to 7, yes.
Is that right?
It was my foray into waking up early, which up to that point was never really a strength of mine.
It is now?
No, but I've managed to do it without getting fired and show up, fairly consistently.
Good on you.
Early in the morning, which was often a problem when we worked together.
From time to time. But both of us, not just you.
Which until I moved directly across the street from the studio so I wouldn't be late so much and I wouldn't get tickets for flying through downtown Norman.
How long did we do that show together?
It was so... I had so many partners. Like, I think I started with Steve Marshall. Jim Byers was next.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Anthony Fogel did a show together for a while.
Awesome.
And then me and I think Tram and I did too. And then me and you somehow just ended up. We had
That's
a lot
when the
of
magic
fun.
happened.
Yeah,
When you and I got together.
It was the most fun I've ever had. I mean, I don't want to slight anybody I'm working with now, but up to now, I'll say
if we could,
it's
please
the most fun. If
cut
there was
this out for Spinozzi and Curtis, let them know.
Curtis is the one that would. Yes, they would both. Like
They get
Phil
the
could
feeling
handle it. Like Phil's probably had like 700 radio partners. in
What
his
you're
life.
saying, just to clarify, is the most fun you've ever had in radio is when you worked with me.
Okay, I'll allow that.
Okay.
So
It was fun.
it was a lot of fun.
Like 4 people were listening.
I enjoyed, hanging out with you every day. I've always told you, I think you're fantastic on the radio. And you do one of the hardest things there is to do, which is to carry a show all by yourself.
Well, TJ's definitely a co-host.
TJ's going to listen, isn't he?
No, I mean, I don't. He probably will listen.
I
but
think everyone at both of our stations will be listening to find out if either one of us say anything that could get us in trouble.
Probably people are shocked that we get along.
It is kind of a.
I told TJ I was coming
thing.
here today, and he said, "See if all of his furniture is inflatable." He said, "In my mind, Murdock has nothing but inflatable furniture."
See, here's the thing. I have very nice furniture, but it still looks like an episode of Hoarders.
In your house?
Yes. I mean, you can see. You're staring right into my living room.
I'm not going to comment on that.
This is what happens when you decide to become a single man and, forego the wife and children.
Is that a decision you made?
Thanks.
I'm just saying. I mean, you're open to the idea of marriage, right?
It's more, yeah, sure. But I'm just saying it's more a cautionary tale, okay? Like, if you're thinking, like, I just want to keep bouncing around from woman to woman. Yeah. Like, once you get into your 40s and you're single, like, you probably have to give up or just try really, really hard to not be single anymore. Otherwise, when I'm raising my arms in the air.
You're doing very well for yourself. This is an impressive setup we have here, by the way.
This is more impressive than my first radio.
I know what the worst word I said was.
What was it?
We had a caller one day early in my KREF days.
Was it Benny?
Who got mad at me. It wasn't Benny. I don't even remember who it was. It might have been Sean, but I doubt it. And he used the D word, yelling at me, and I repeated.
Really?
I repeated what he said back to him. So I said it back to him.
Which I will say this. And since we are the odd couple, Dick is actually...
Not that word.
Oh, really?
No.
Dumbass?
No. Damn.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, you went way beyond. It's impressive the Rolodex of D words you came up with on the fly. And I repeated it back to him.
I just, the first one has been in the news a lot lately, so...
There was a call at my dad. My dad is a pastor.
Yes.
Very important religious man.
Yes.
And he had left me a voice message after the show letting me know that he was a little disappointed in me.
Now, was he in Indiana then and now he's in Oklahoma, or was he always in Oklahoma?
At that time, I think he was in Oklahoma.
Okay.
They moved here. It's been about 12 years ago now.
Okay.
So,
now that I'm totally off track.
It's okay. I want you to feel like you can be free with me. Don't censor
well, that's
yourself.
not a problem. But no, we started, working together, and like I said, I admire the hell out of you as far as being able to just carry a show by yourself. And I know TJ pipes in every once in a while. And I like TJ. We've always gotten along.
Much more than pipes in once in a while, but I appreciate what you're saying.
The way things worked out for you, and you were in TV. You won 2 Emmys as a television guy. Everybody loved you as a television guy. And then you decided to give that up and just do stuff for Oklahoma. How bad is Dean Blevins?
What do you know? No, listen, Dean is... I did not... That was a very good lead me down one alley and hit me upside the head with another question. Dean is a quirky guy. Everybody knows that. Even his wife would say that. I think Dean would say that he's a quirky guy. But I owe the world to Dean, and this is just not me being politically correct. Honestly, Dean and Bill hired me back in 1999. For those who don't know, I interned for Bill and Chris Harrison and Ed before that back in 1995. But it was Dean and Bill. Bill called me in 99, said we're looking for an associate producer in the sports department, and brought me in. And he said, I like you. I want to hire you. You know that, but you're going to have to get Dean's approval because Dean was also co-hosting the 10 o'clock show, the Blitz then. And so he had to sign off on me. And they both hired me. And then, of course, unfortunately what happened with Bill, and I ended up working with Dean for a long time. And we certainly had our moments where we got sideways with each other. I don't know if that's possible not to happen when you work with somebody for a decade.
Yeah.
But we certainly had our moments where we didn't see eye to eye. But for the most part, we really got along well. Like, really well. Like, I kind of made up for his deficiencies, and he more than made up for mine. And I'm kind of proud of the days at Channel 9. I mean, the Blitz was kind of our baby, and
it's still going, yeah.
We broke a few stories while we were there, and so those were good days for me. I mean, I worked really hard, and I wouldn't want to go back to it. I'd hardly slept at all for about 10 years. But I have a fond spot in my heart for Dean Blevins.
It is, it's one of those things. I feel like this is something I need to address with you because this table that we're sitting in front of, try and move it. Just try.
Yeah, it's tough. This is going to be a hard one to flip.
The reason that I'm asking about the table or mentioning the table is I think I made you as mad as any human being has in the history of the world.
I don't
know everything that's gone on
it's
since
the worst
we
temper
worked
tantrum
together.
I've ever had publicly.
And I could get you to do many. Like, you and Curtis are very similar. And then if I really get you riled up, you take your water bottles or your Coke bottles or whatever. I think you would drink Coke in the morning, I think.
Maybe.
Maybe. And Curtis, it's usually his pen. But I had this, I still, to this day, I have this ability to get people to throw things.
Right.
Usually off of a wall and bounce back and hit me. Like, I am like the...
So you've made Curtis so mad he's thrown things?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Really?
Yeah. That's his. But you would do it with Coke bottles.
I didn't regularly.
No,
like
maybe 3 times.
3 times, really?
At least twice.
I remember the table episode, and I remember throwing a bottle once.
But the table episode, like, literally, I felt like a horrible human being because I was being an instigator and a jerk. And I think for good radio.
Was it David West? Is that where we were?
No. It's because what you said about TV and how much you never slept when you worked there. I think you guys had broken a story at Channel 9.
Okay.
And it led me to say the worst thing that I've ever said, which I have almost tried to make up for it like my entire rest of my career, which was TV journalists aren't real journalists.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Because my theory was because you only come on for 2 or 3 minutes a day, and it's going to get phased out eventually because everyone just kind of quits watching. And you got really mad about it.
And that's when I flipped the table?
That's when you flipped the table. But there was some back and forth.
This was on the air, by the way, right?
Yeah, this was on the air. And we're talking
about
6
o'clock in the morning.
We're talking about a table that housed all our microphones, our headphone jacks, any papers that we were using, keyboard,
right.
Computer, like flipped, and you flipped it toward me. The computer The keyboard was on the keyboard. Right. And I was wearing flip-flops like I usually do in the morning, and it literally almost like cut the ends of my feet off. Like,
I'm sorry, man.
How would you have felt if the rest of my life I walked around
terrible.
And people called me Stubby?
I feel terrible about it right now. It is the most legendary moment in KRF history, though. I mean, they talk about it.
They still talk about it.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Like, there should be... We need to go like take a picture and so they can immortalize it. Yeah.
If only cell phone technology had been better.
Here's what I could say about that moment. One, I probably didn't sleep a lot. I probably was tired.
You had young kids. They were probably keeping you up.
There was a period of time where, I would get home from Channel 9 at midnight, maybe. I would get up in the middle of the night with babies, and then I would leave the house at 5 to get to the station by 6. And that was like day in and day out for a while. So maybe I could blame it on that. But I love to debate. I like in high school, debate teams and all that kind of stuff. I really enjoy debating things with people.
Yeah.
But only to, like, if people are willing to give and take, like I make a good point and they say, "Oh, you've convinced me on this."
Yes.
And they'll make a good point and I go, "Oh, I see what you're saying." But every once in a while you run into somebody who
won't give,
has no interest in any logical argument you're going to make on a subject.
Yeah.
They've just decided my way is right and anything you say is stupid.
You must hate watching First Take.
I don't watch that show for that very reason. I stopped several years ago. There's been a few people in my mostly radio career who are like that when they debate. Mm-hmm. And I can't do it. I can't do it because I get so angry that no matter what I say, there's no chiseling through the concrete to win them over on a point.
Yeah.
And I'm sure whatever we were talking about, that had to have been it. Because there's been a couple of times I got so irate at TJ that I've either hung up or one time I left. One time I got mad at him in the middle of a show and I went and got in my car and left.
I've done that before.
And then I went into 7-Eleven and got something and I came back. But
one time Curtis compared me to Billy Lucci and Jeff Ketchum and said, I do the same thing they do. I told him to stop making that comparison.
You left.
That I was nothing like them. He kept doing it. Like he thought it was funny. Mm-hmm. And like I was really getting pissed. Uh-huh. Like, and I had to apologize to Jeff Ketchum because I really don't hate Jeff as much. And I don't think the apology really hit because we still haven't talked since then. But I said, that's it. I told you like 3 times to stop comparing me to those guys.
This is on the air.
Yeah, and I got up. I waited till the break. I was actually semi-professional. So it was like he kept doing it, and I checked out. Like I was sitting in my chair, and it was toward the end of a segment, and at the very end, he was like, "You don't have anything to say, Carey?" And I just went like that.
Was this recently?
It's probably about a year and a half ago. Okay. This is about halfway through. We're starting our 3rd season together. So it's probably about a year ago.
By the way, Curtis Fitzpatrick, a big part of the fun at Channel 9.
Yeah.
Mark Rogers, Chad McKee.
Curtis tells the story about how he got Chris Harrison's voicemail.
Okay.
And he never changed it. So he would get all these... When people started watching The Bachelor,
really,
they would call Channel 9 and leave Chris Harrison messages. And every time he went into the office to check his messages, it was nothing but people complaining about The Bachelor.
That's funny. I loved working with Curtis. Curtis was going through the Invisaligns.
Oh, yeah?
While he was working there. So he'd come in like different mouth guards he would have to wear all day. This was like for 2 years.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I know that this is stuff that Curtis would not want to be talked about.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. But like,
which how means please continue.
They'd readjust the mouth and the thing, and he'd have to wear them. But his teeth look fantastic now, so obviously he did the right thing there. He's very sexy.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this because we talked about you never cussing, but I find one of the things I find most fascinating about you. By the way, before I get into this. If you want to ask me anything about the NBA, this is your opportunity because I know you have been chummy.
You've become quite the expert now.
Between you and TJ, I get so many well, not you specifically, but TJ, I get so many harassing texts from him because I had once again our stupid debating. I had the crazy stance when the Hornets came here that they were just here to use the city, and
you hated the NBA.
It was a lot like Sooner fans never relenting on cheering for Kevin Durant because he spent a year in Austin.
You hated the NBA, and you didn't want us to talk about it. You hated when we talked about it because it was stupid. And now every once in a while, I'll catch your show, and you can't talk enough NBA. I mean, you are Mr. Thunder now. I'm proud of you. I have nothing to say other than I'm proud of the evolution that you've made.
My opinion of the NBA back when we worked together was that it was a worthless regular season because nobody tried until the playoffs started. But, as a kid, I loved watching the Bulls and the Pistons. I loved, watching New York when they were a bunch of jerks. I liked watching Reggie Miller. But I only watched playoff basketball when I was a kid, and I was just dismissive of the NBA in general. And I thought it was kind of cute to say, they're just they're stealing, money from our
we had
our
knockdown
economy
dragouts over David West.
David West was, yes, our greatest fight.
The funny thing is, now like years later, I think we both were right.
I agree.
As many fights as we had over David West.
He was a very valuable basketball player. But he was not a superstar, and he really, in my mind, still. What did he have? 2 All-Star appearances.
2-time All-Star David West.
Yeah, you never let me forget that.
2-time All-Stars. Yeah, this was when he was at the Hornets, and they picked him up, and it was him and Chris Paul, and I thought David West was really good, and you kept calling him a journeyman.
Yes,
and in the end,
I remember that.
In the end, he has been a lot of places, so I think journeyman.
But that's kind of by
fair.
his choice, a little bit.
Yeah, so I think we both were right in the end. How great is that?
I
feel good about that.
I do too. Our greatest argument is a tie.
That's right. Our greatest argument is
You had a hard time admitting that.
No. I'm glad that I finally get to say that to you. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But I'm not real proud of the way I behaved back in those days.
Do I get like little veiled shots, like almost like subtweets on your show about that still? Like you don't mention me by name, but you just say things like, it's interesting that I hear a guy talking
David
NBA
West,
now.
We have joked about that about you in the past, yes. But not just you. There's a lot of people in the media who are not NBA fans who now are NBA fans, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's an NBA team here now. There's a lot of fans like that now, too. But yeah,
see,
we reference you frequently on our show.
Just not by name.
Sometimes by name. I really don't care. I know.
See, that's what's so bizarre about your radio station. Like, you guys can get away with that stuff. Like, I'm not saying
Is it a problem that we're talking right now?
I don't know.
Your station, is it a problem that I'm on your podcast? Because there's this weird thing in Oklahoma City that all of us are supposed to ignore the fact that any other station exists.
Right.
You know that the Sports Animal won't have me on.
Well, you work for another radio station.
Exactly. But
there's also, let's face it, there's also, whether
it's the only
Synergy
station in America that won't have me on. It is. It's the only radio station in America that won't have me on.
But the other radio station that's in the market, you're on there anyway because you're doing the OU game.
I understand the logic. You don't need to explain the logic. I'm just saying.
I'm explaining for our listeners. I don't want it to be made out like our station is so horrible.
I'm not sure the dynamic in Oklahoma City for sports radio is the same across the country. You know what I mean? Like, there's
you really think like in Kansas City, someone else working for another radio station would be a guest on a radio station?
No. Probably not. But there's almost like this, you can't even admit people exist or talk about them on your show and stuff. I don't know. We talk about you or other people on our show all the time, and nobody's ever said anything about it. So
it's very different when you're working for a company that has a corporate structure. Like today, there was one of the biggest bosses in the company was in there. Like, we have this little thing when you walk in that has like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that, and it said welcome. Jeff Brown is his name. He's from Cumulus, and he was coming in to visit just to kind of do the, not annual, but every once in a while the corporate people come in, and it's like you feel. I think when you work for the Sports Animal or a bigger company like that, and maybe you feel some of this working for OU because there's a lot of people, a lot of moving parts, but you feel kind of the weight of everyone above you a little bit. Not in a bad way that makes it hard to do your job, but you just know that you don't want to do something stupid. For instance, you don't want to make fun of someone that's probably a sponsor, has been a sponsor, say that you hate what they do.
Absolutely.
And I think it's viewed, people that work at other radio stations, it's kind of viewed the same way.
Probably. It's probably why I'm still where I'm at. I enjoy the freedom.
Yeah.
In that, yeah.
I'm not
that
I don't want to be insulting.
Not that we're ripping on people. It's just, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's the sports radio, this market in sports radio I find entertaining. It's funny about the, I don't even know how to put it properly. I don't think it was like that in television. I mean, it's not like...
Yeah. But television,
we all got along with each other, and we would have each other on each other's radio shows, and we have like all the different radio stuff on our TV shows, and everybody intermingles, and newspaper guys kind of work together and stuff. But sports radio, then there's walls up.
I remember.
Don't even talk about that person.
I remember the first. See, like I'm. This is my podcast. I can talk about what I want, and I'm a little hesitant to.
Yes.
But I remember the first time I went to Big 12 Media Days after the franchise started, and
there's going to be a meeting over that.
Yeah, probably so.
You're going to have to edit that out.
I won't. I'll see what happens. You know me. I am used to being in trouble most of the time.
Let me know if you get called in.
I got called by somebody today that was unhappy with the promo that they were running that works at OU, so that I was involved in. That's the other thing, too. Like, the thing that I enjoy now is, like, I think I know how to not get in trouble with Bob, but it's the people around Bob you're always getting in trouble with. It's like...
You're getting in trouble with?
Yeah, like, I don't want to
For stuff you write?
Stuff I write or say, Anyway.
I understand that.
But no, I'm going to Big 12 Media Days.
You're not saying you get in trouble. They just disagree with something you say.
Like the franchise has started. Sam Mays used to be a fill-in on the Sports Animal, and Colby Daniels.
I think that's right.
He was a board op at the Sports Animal for a while, and then he went to the Triple Play in Stillwater. And so I'm walking in, and I can't really say I had a relationship with Sam much when he was at the station. He was filling in. I was doing morning stuff. I don't think we ever did a show together, ever. I think because of the way I am on the radio, because of the way he is, we probably assume some things about each other, which is always bad.
Right.
And so I'm walking down the hallway. It's when it was at the
in Norman?
The media hotel that they have now.
For Big the
12
Omni.
Media. The Omni. It was at the Omni. And so I'm walking down, and I see, like, Sam and Colby standing there, and I really don't know, like, am I supposed to, say hello to him or whatever? And I just got this sense of hostility.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, I guess,
Very competitive.
I'm not going to... Because I know what you're talking about. Like TV people, they go out, when they go to games, they go to dinner together.
Right.
Bowl games, everybody's going to dinner. Like Eddie is kind of in that TV crowd, Eddie Radosevich.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always going out to eat with, Dylan and whoever else is in TV.
It's hard to tell these days.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like John Moss, all those guys. They're going out and having a good time and enjoying it. There's not really any competition. But you're right. In radio, it really is.
There's walls.
A lot, but you know what I think a big part of it is, and this is, I don't care if people take issue with me saying this, people in radio don't go to a lot of stuff. They don't cover stuff.
Games and things like that.
They'll go sit in the press box, but they're not usually going to Big 12 Media Days. They're not really going on the road to cover a team. Right.
Yeah.
So I think you're not in that environment. Like I'll never see Sam Mays all year. I don't think. Like he'll never come. He may come to an OU press conference once. Of course, I'm not going to Mike Gundy's press conferences. I don't know if he does or not, but I'm assuming with their time and stuff, they probably wouldn't. So
it's just funny. I know all you guys at the Animal. I mean, I used to work there,
and everybody likes you at the Animal.
I know almost everybody. I don't know Spinozzi real well, but I know Curtis and Mark and Dusty and Jim and I know a lot of the guys at the franchise because that's our flagship station. So we at OU we deal with them a lot, and obviously the ref. So it's just kind of weird because you got to think in your mind, all right, am I allowed to do anything with this person? Because
it's like when you and I see each other in a press box. It really is kind of like I've never really been able to put my finger on what a good example would be, but it's just kind of like if we see each other, it's like, hey, it's that guy, and you're like, right. Hey, I know you, and I mean we're just very jolly and we're like little kids.
We like each other.
See each other after a summer break or something.
We had a really good time together, and even now when we communicate, we text or whatever, it's fun. And so we enjoy seeing each other. But there is, if you look around, like the rest of the room is a little shocked that we're talking. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
because we're at two different radio stations.
The same radio station.
Oh my God, what if people find out? Carey's talking to Toby. This is going to really get him in trouble.
Well, it'd be like, like TJ, every once in a while I'll talk to. I'd love to go see his little kid, like play a baseball game or something sometime because he's so into that.
What if somebody takes a picture of you?
Yeah, but like what if we're like sitting together?
Yeah.
And what happens?
No way that's going to go.
So yeah, it is interesting. What will happen?
This interests about 4 people though.
What will happen at Cumulus Radio when this becomes public that Carey did a podcast with Toby? Because nobody knows. I can't tell you.
You think you won't get in trouble for this?
No.
You might get in trouble for saying the franchise, but you won't get in trouble for...
But I said the franchise on my podcast, so...
Right.
I don't make that mistake on the air.
Okay.
On real radio. Not this fake stuff. Okay. I don't know. I didn't even ask you before we started how much time you have.
I'm good.
But...
My responsibilities for the day are done, so you go.
This is kind of like our opportunity to be a couple of Bill Simmons, isn't it? Just to talk about things that most people don't care about, but they listen anyway.
I hope so. I hope they listen.
His show is not doing very well, by the way, on HBO.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I'm not a huge fan.
Apparently, he makes millions off of his podcasts.
I believe that.
And he makes a bunch of money because HBO gives it to him.
Are you making money off this yet?
No. Maybe after the Toby Rowland show.
Is it based on, like, you get a certain number of listeners you can advertise, and then that's how it works? Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. It's just like
so maybe this
else.
Is the one that'll launch you.
Set me over the top.
Right.
First time I ever heard you on the radio, I was...
slightly disappointed Eddie Radosevich isn't here. I'm not going to lie.
I'm sure he's disappointed too.
The medium easy.
The first time I ever heard you on the radio, it was when I would go to class in college. I would come back to my car because there was always a 2-hour break. And instead of like going into the Union or something, I wanted to listen to sports radio. So I would go sit in my car and listen to the Toby Rowland Small College Report on WWLS.
On Saturday mornings?
Yes. I think I had like a Saturday class or something. But didn't you have a stint? I think maybe you would fill in every once in a while for like Tony Sellers when he was gone or something.
Oh, yeah. I filled on, yes, and some other shows.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of fill-in work for all the guys at The Animal back in the day.
But the Small College Report was always just like, I knew that's when you had something because for crying out loud, you're interviewing guys from small colleges and I was listening to it. And I was like, why do I care what UCO's track team is going to do? But it was just, I was like, I like that guy. I don't know how old when did you graduate high school? What year?
91.
Okay, so you're a year older than I am. Or you're younger.
I'm 42.
Okay, so you're a year younger.
We can make this real easy.
So we're essentially the same age, and you were in college doing radio, getting your career started. I was in my car sitting there thinking, oh, I like sports radio. Mm-hmm. But I always knew that you were going to do something because just listening to the Small College Report. I don't think I ever had.
That was funny. I was board opping there, and I approached them. I think the conference came to me, the Sooner Athletic Conference.
That's right, yeah.
I was like the conference SID in addition to being Southern Nazarene's SID. And the conference commissioner, John Hudson, said, do you think the Animal would ever let you do an hour on there about small college basketball? And I was like, I don't know, I'll ask. So I went and asked him, like, on Saturday morning when you don't have any programming going on, could I do an hour? I'll board op it and host it, and maybe you can sell a couple of ads because that's like a whole different community there that, appreciates small college basketball that would maybe buy some ads, and gave them some leads. And they were like, what do we have to lose? We got nothing on that time of day anyway. So they gave me an hour on Saturday mornings. And
you were what, like in your junior? That would have been like your junior year in college.
No. I think I had just graduated.
Just graduated. Okay.
I think I had started as like the SNU SID at that point. And Dan Lutz hired me to board op the 8 to midnight shift.
Yeah.
As soon as they went off the air till midnight, so I'd listen to a whole lot of Bob Valvano late at night.
Yeah.
And anyway, so they let me do that hour, and Dan Hayes and Bobby Martin and all the small college coaches would come on, and we would talk, and people called because that's like a niche community, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it worked. We did it for like 2 or 3 years, and yeah.
And that was on the old 640.
They let me keep doing it.
Signal, so it was going all over the place.
I guess. Yeah, I think it was going out. I think we were broadcasting it.
And to me, one of the most interesting things about you is that you mentioned you grew up in a very religious household. Your father was a minister.
Still is.
Still is. But you weren't allowed to partake in any kind of movies or
Nazarene.
Secular music, I guess.
I'm Nazarene.
Uh-huh.
And so the rules have changed.
You weren't like a Quaker.
No. When I was growing up, the rules were you couldn't go to movies, you couldn't go to dances. Those were the two.
I was
big
Baptist,
things.
and dancing was bad.
Yeah, so I never went to a prom, and I never went to a movie until I got to college. And so I've had this quest.
Was there like let me stop you there. Was there like when you turn 18, it's okay to watch movies in the Nazarene faith?
No. No, adults aren't supposed to go to movies. Back then.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody.
So did the rules change right then?
The movies were thought to be run by the same community that put out R-rated stuff and X-rated stuff.
Okay.
And so if you went to the movies, you were supporting
that industry.
Right. And I think they've definitely loosened the strands because my mom goes to movies now. And
yeah.
The first time my mom found out I went to a movie when I was in college was the worst conversation I've ever had.
What
with my
movie
mom.
was it?
I don't even remember.
You can't remember the first movie you ever saw?
No, I remember the first movie, but that wasn't the one that I got busted on. Like, I had gone to a movie with a girl, and my mom called my room. This is pre-cell phones. My mom called my room, and my roommate answered. And she said, "Is Toby there?" And he said, "No, he's gone to a movie."
Ooh.
And I remember I got back. My mom was just bawling. When
Wow.
I call her, she's just bawling about how she thought she had raised me better than that and all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, fast forward to now, like my mom texted last week, "Hey, do you want to go to a movie with me?" So we have progressed. But I didn't go to a movie till college, and I wasn't allowed to dance, which everybody won under that scenario because me dancing is not a good. It's not a good scene.
I'm surprised that you just don't live your life talking like a 1940s reporter guy, like champ.
Because I didn't go to movies?
Because you just grew up like apparently in an era that was long ago.
I watched a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I mean, and I listened to a ton.
Well, that's
what
I figure. You like sitting in your room listening to like a Philco radio.
Absolutely. I had
all
the
the
Walkman, and when I lived in Oklahoma, I lived in Mustang until 8th grade. It was all OU stuff and John Brooks. And when I moved to Indiana, I loved the Cincinnati Reds, but I couldn't hear them in Oklahoma. But in Indiana, I could hear the Reds. So it was Marty Brenneman every day, Marty Brenneman and Joe Nuxall and the Cincinnati Reds. And I would schedule lawn mowings around. I mowed lawn for money. So
I did the same thing.
If the Reds play at 3, I'm going to mow the lawn at 3 so I could listen to the game while I'm mowing.
Yeah.
And I loved it when they were on the West Coast because I could lay in bed. They would start at 9, and I could lay in bed and listen to the game. I kept score during the game. I was a dork, dude. I was a major, still am, but I mean, back then.
There's that personality. I think we all knew. Like you were an athlete though too, which I find. You can be a dork because you actually played basketball in college and everything. And that was right? You played basketball at SNU?
Right.
Okay. So it's okay that you're a dork. It's the guys that always bugged me were the guys that just wanted to be on the baseball team so they could keep score, like the Ogilvies or Buttermaker. I can't remember which one it was in Bad News Bears, but those are the guys like, no, you're a nerd, dude.
I think it's just that I have a hard time. I had a hard time just watching. I needed to be involved in some way. So if I was watching a basketball game, I would get a piece of paper out and I would keep score along with the game. And same with baseball. I don't know. I just always loved it.
So when you were doing talk radio and then you go into TV, Was it always the plan that you wanted to do play-by-play?
No, I think that always the greatest job I could ever imagine having, this isn't just somebody saying this, but it's this job. I didn't know that it would ever come open. But
is it the voice of a power, one of the most tradition-rich programs in the history of football? I mean, would it have been USC? I mean,
listen, if I couldn't have gotten the OU job and Alabama called, I would have taken it just for being in the industry. But but for a kid who grew up a massive Oklahoma Sooner fan, the greatest job I could ever possibly have would be this one. But that's really unlikely. I mean, it's really unlikely.
How many people ever become? I mean, how many people have ever been the play-by-play voice of Oklahoma football? Yeah.
So, I would have been very happy if I just was in television for the rest of my life. I'm very thankful. Probably the luckiest thing that ever happened was my junior year in college. I was on the basketball team and I stunk, and I wasn't playing at all. And my coach said, "If you'll give us your scholarship back, we will give you an equivalent scholarship to start the sports information department at Southern Nazarene, and you can, because we know what you want to do, you can call our games." So I started calling SNU, and all they had was basketball. But while I was there as SID, they started a football program and a baseball program in the 4 years I was there. And we broadcasted their games and just put them on the internet back in the early days of the internet. But I got to learn how to call football and baseball games in addition to basketball games for about 5 years by myself. And that was so fortunate that they expanded their athletic department at the same time. Otherwise, fast forward to OU's looking for somebody, and all I had ever called was basketball, that would have never happened. So,
you mentioned, I know sometimes, as a religious person, you look at things the way they work out, and you get sent down another path that you didn't see coming. And, that becomes a big part of, faith and things like that. Mm-hmm. When we were at KRF together, and you can just tell me you don't want to talk about this, but
no, I'll talk about the Thunder thing.
You had an opportunity to go be the sideline reporter for the Thunder.
Right.
I don't want to get sued by anybody or threaten to get sued by anybody.
I don't think you'll get in trouble.
But there was something happened, and that some people claimed that opportunity got sabotaged.
Well, I don't know if sabotage is the right word. I had a contract with with Channel 9 and with the radio station at the Ref, different ownership than we have now. And Channel 9 realized the opportunity and cut me free, or was willing to cut me free and say, go do the Thunder thing. They were great about it. They were, I think I had 3 years left on my contract at Channel 9, and they were like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. Go for it. That didn't happen at the radio station. The radio station, I had 1 year left on my contract, and they held me to it. It was a situation where they had a non-compete, and I was going to be on television for the Thunder.
Right.
So if they had gone to court, my lawyer anyway, seemed to be convinced it wouldn't have been a deal. I would have been able to get out of the contract easy and go to work for the Thunder. But just the threat of a lawsuit scared the Thunder away, because they had just been through the whole Seattle situation. And,
they're like, we like Toby Rowland.
No,
we
not
want
that
him,
much.
But we don't want the headache of dealing with this.
We can find
stuff.
another sideline guy.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal to us. So the door got closed.
That had to be professionally just
awful.
Crushing for you.
It was crushing. It was crushing because I thought I had the job. I had the job.
A kid from Indiana had an NBA sideline.
I was going to be in the NBA, and I was going to travel the world with an NBA team. And it was a significant pay raise and prestige, and the Thunder had just come. This was when they first arrived in the city, and I was going to get to be a part of it, and it was very exciting. It was really hard on my marriage. We went through a hard time because we thought we had it, and then we were disappointed, and then I got kind of depressed, and there was about a year there where it was pretty bad. But I think your point you're going to make is, thank God, in the end.
Before I ask you that, though, let me ask you, why did you stay with the same radio station after that had happened?
I was under contract, obviously.
Mm-hmm. But when that year ran out, well, obviously something happened to make you feel comfortable about staying there.
At some point in their ownership
was that the
changed.
ownership change?
At some point in their ownership changed. And I think, I don't know. I don't want to go into that. That might have been a part of the whole deal. But I love Randy LaFoon, who owns the station now and has been absolutely awesome to work for. He put a studio in my house, for Pete's sake. He takes care of my family. He's phenomenal. And so I think that just, after about a year, everything calmed down. I like doing a show.
Yeah.
I didn't hate doing a show.
He was a big part of you.
I still needed the money.
He was a big part of you kind of recovering from that. Then.
Randy?
Yeah.
Randy was a big part of recovering from that, and is why I still work there today, because, there's been other opportunities since the Oklahoma thing came along. And
I've never been in a meeting with your name coming up or anything.
It's just hard to imagine not working for Randy. Maybe I will someday, but he's just awesome. He's just great.
So, out of that disappointment, I don't know how long it was when I always knew Kenny Mossman was a big fan of yours and the work that you did, and we talked about that a lot, and he brought it up a lot. But eventually, was that after the did you get hired on to start doing more TV stuff with OU at that point? Or Sooner Sports was coming up at that point?
Channel 9 had a relationship with OU. They had David Griffin at Channel 9 owned a piece of Sooner Sports properties. So there was always kind of
this was probably before Renda was sold to Tyler, right?
Yes. There was always kind of an inclination that when they needed somebody, they would look at Channel 9 first. Mm-hmm. Thus, Dean did some work for them. Obviously, Dean was a quarterback, but some of our other Channel 9 people would be used before maybe some other people in the market because of that. So when they needed a sideline guy, Mark got the job. Remember?
I remember,
Before I was, Mark had the job for a while. And then I had done some freelance stuff for OU. I had called some women's basketball games and some softball games and stuff in a pinch, so they knew of me. And I kind of got my name in the mix for the sideline gig and in 2009 got the sideline job. So that was kind of the first full-time thing I did for OU. Full-time, but you know what I mean. That's the first time they hired me to do a job.
And that was, I remember, I can't remember where that was. We went to eat at the Cheesecake Factory. Was that in Nebraska that one time?
Me and you?
Yeah, me and you.
Was that with OU?
It was OU was playing Nebraska, I think.
I did that game.
And we were...
It was like 10-9. It was a terrible football game.
We somehow met up in that was a terrible... We somehow met up that night, and I think... I was staying in like Omaha and you were staying in Lincoln, and we were giving each other rides or something like that. And,
okay. I believe you.
I don't know where I was going with that story other than to say I remember those days, when you were a sideline guy and Bob, was still obviously still around, still doing the games.
Yep.
Were you always thinking that it was had you gotten assurances like someday you will be the guy, or were you just going on faith that eventually you would get a crack at the job?
I no faith at all. I just I was ecstatic that I got to be on I was on the OU broadcast. I was on the OU radio broadcast. Yeah. That was unbelievable. That I remember just crying, telling my dad that I'm on the OU. Can you believe this? This I've listened to forever, and I'm the sideline guy now. I'm on the not just being on the broadcast, but I'm on the sidelines. First game, Sam Bradford gets hurt and knocked out, and I'm interviewing Bob Stoops after. It was just beyond my wildest dreams that I was even on the broadcast. Wasn't even thinking about play-by-play. Obviously, Bob's career was winding down, but nobody knew how much longer he was going to go. And to be honest with you, I would have probably hoped he had gone another 2 or 3 years just so I could have been a little bigger personality.
Yeah.
I'd only been there 2 years.
Yeah.
And so when he retired, I thought, I'm not going to get the job. There's bigger names.
Yeah.
There's bigger fish. You can get whoever they
Bob
want.
Bob Carpenter's name was thrown around a lot at that point.
I don't know if I feel comfortable saying names, but
yeah,
I'm sure there are bigger names who were interested and they could have gotten. So I didn't really think my chances were great. I believed in myself, and I think I'm good at calling a game, and I knew that the resume tape that I gave them was good. And I think one thing that I don't know if people remember that really helped me is the day that they honored Bob, his final home game at OU. At halftime, they brought him down onto the field. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
In a cart, they brought him out onto the field and everything. Well, they brought him down with like 3 or 4 minutes to go in the first half. They came and got him out of the booth.
Right, I remember
They brought me up to call the last 3 minutes of the first half. First time they had ever done that. And the plan was, I'm going to come up at halftime. Bob's going to call the whole first half and then go down. And just in case he can't come back up, or just in case he doesn't get back up for the start of the second half, you're going to call the first drive of the second half.
And he'd had some knee replacements, I think, at that time or something. That was what was the problem with his mobility.
Something. Yeah, he had some health issues. And anyway, when I got up there was 2 or 3 minutes to go in the first half. He left. And I wasn't ready to start calling the game yet. I thought I had all of halftime to get ready. But he
had no charts or anything?
No charts, nothing. I thought I was going to get to sit in his chair. So I put on the headset in the back row by Michael Dean. He gets up and leaves, and I think he's coming back, and he doesn't come back. And Michael Dean looks at me and goes, "You got it." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
And this was like coming out of a break?
Coming out of a break. Bob's not back. He's left. I didn't know he's leaving. And OU gets the ball and goes on a touchdown drive. Thank God they went on a touchdown drive. I'm fully convinced if they go 3 and out and punt, it's no impression at all.
Yeah.
But they go on a touchdown drive, and I get a touchdown call, and I think that helped. So that when they were looking for...
Do you remember the spin you put on that call?
There was no spin. It was
I'm in my lane. We're not adding that much color.
I don't think I spin a lot now, but I certainly wasn't dropping any
there was no mamas or anything.
No. There was a touchdown, and it went well.
Yeah.
And so that was a part of the resume tape. And I think that helped.
And the fact that you didn't even know you were going to be calling that.
I've never asked Joe about that, but in my mind that helped. I don't know.
How much interaction do you have with Joe?
A lot.
Why is that?
I don't know. We get along really well. We enjoy each other's company.
I guess I just meant are there is it a job-related stuff, or is it just general,
Not really.
conversation?
Mostly general conversation. When we're on the road, you probably know this, he loves diners. And
that's become a whole thing in the department, hasn't it?
Larry Nafee,
yeah,
Michael Alford, Joe. If we're on the road, he'll call me up and say, "Hey, we're going to breakfast tomorrow morning, such and such place. We found a diner."
Yeah.
So we love going to diners together. We'll text and talk about games that are going on or whatever. On occasion, if there is something going on in the athletic department that he feels like it would be good for me to have information for my show, though I understand something more clearly, he'll call and just kind of talk through something with me. Not talking points, but just so you're in the know and you can speak wisely on this subject. Here's what's going on, and I really appreciate that. There's been a couple of occasions where they've chosen to break a story that way or something. But we get along great. I think Joe loves the world of broadcasting. He's very proud of the different people at Missouri.
Well, your name's Joe Castiglione.
Right. He has really been a kingmaker for a lot of people in the world of broadcasting, and so he loves what we do. And so a lot of times, look at
my career and see when he doesn't help you, how bad it goes.
He comes into the booth a lot during football
Does he really?
games, especially on the road, because there will be his booth will have a bunch of donors in it and stuff.
He's got to escape them.
Well, not escape them, but sometimes it gets to crucial points in the game, and I think he feels
like he sees it better if he hears you calling.
He comes in and wants to be with us, and maybe he focuses a little better or something. Yeah. So sometimes I won't even know he's back there.
It's like I imagine for him sometimes it's like a Super Bowl party, like the women chattering about non-football issues just gets on your nerves, and you have to get away.
Maybe. I remember we were at West Virginia a couple of years ago. Well, it was the Landry Jones drive, and the 50-48 game or whatever it was, and they have the touchdown, the Kenny Stills slant pattern that wins it, and somebody's grabbing me by the shoulders and kind of shaking me as I'm calling it, and I turn around and it's Joe. I didn't even know he was in the booth. So, we have a great relationship, I think.
That's awesome.
I think.
I want to let you get out of here. I don't want to keep you. I could talk to you for like 3 hours about stuff. But
do people listen for 3 hours?
One guy on the board asked us if we could start making our podcast 2 hours after the last one.
Let's keep going.
No, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I've told you this before, and this is kind of one of the things that you and I talk about the most is like, I'll watch your show, your coach's show with Bob.
Yeah.
And I'll always send you comments like, it's unbelievable how much at ease you two have become with each other. Like, and it's not just, I mean, look, it does rely on Bob giving something, which he's not always been great at doing. But you could, in the beginning, I think you could tell, like, I know you. I can tell when you're free and easygoing and it's really working. And I really want to dial up. I have it on my computer. I really want to dial up the K-State, post-game call with the guy that the guy that ended call-ins. You know what I'm talking about?
I remember that night,
it's
but
the
I don't
guy that
remember
calls
the
from
call.
Tulsa saying he took a busload of people up to the game.
Oh, we showed up. Why didn't you show up?
Yeah, we showed, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like the look on your face when that guy is asking the question and you're wondering, like, where is Bob going to take us? Like, I'm concerned here, but I'm also really intrigued to find out what happens.
That show is the hardest thing I do all week. I don't dread it. That's not the right word, but I think about it constantly.
Yeah.
And
it has to be easier now because it looks like it's easier to do it for you now.
It's not hard. It's just, if you think about it, when the game ends on Saturday, he does a post-game press conference. Then on Sunday, he does a TV show with Dean. Then on Monday, he sits with you guys for 40 minutes and answers questions. And he's probably had another post-practice interview session before he gets to that show on Tuesday night. So what in the heck am I going to ask him about the last week that hasn't already been asked, you know? I mean, so I'm constantly trying, and I've got him for an hour. You guys have the brightest and best media minds in Oklahoma for 40 minutes who are peppering him with questions.
Yeah.
And I've got him for an hour by myself.
You're overselling the media, by the way.
Well, I'm just saying. So I've got a pad of paper at home, and I'm constantly writing down potential questions. And you're right. Over the last 5 years, he has grown more comfortable with me. Mm-hmm. I think the first year I was a media guy. You know, he had sat at a press conference and looked at me sitting where you sit for a long time. And now I'm sitting next to him, and he still kind of saw me that way. And over time, that has worn down, and we've done enough caravans together and interviews and been in his office, and we've been through stuff together now. And so he doesn't see me that way anymore. So there's a comfort level.
You're kind of one of his guys now.
Well, to some extent, he knows we're on the same team.
Yeah.
I'm not out to get him. And so he is comfortable with me most nights, and I'm comfortable that I can get something out of him. I used to go in with the fear that I'm going to run out of questions. There's going to be 20 minutes left in the show, and then what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And I know now that I can get him to talk a little about Youngstown, or I can get him to talk about his family, or there's, hopefully we can get some interesting stories out tonight that people haven't heard before.
Yeah.
That'll make it worth watching. Otherwise, I mean, what's he going to say that is worth watching? Because he's already said it 5 or 6 times.
At his press conference, yeah.
So that's part of it. I mean,
and it doesn't help you that the press conferences are now televised, so everybody sees. Information is never hidden,
right?
Like and the people that watch his coach's show are the same people watching his press conference.
I do get criticized for not asking tough enough questions, but
let me ask you about that.
Okay.
I mean, you gave up television, and like I said when we started, saying you won 2 Emmys. You're
I'm still
very
in
good
television, but
you're
I'm not
very
on
good
Channel 9 anymore.
And I don't want you to turn the table over. I'm getting in a bad situation here. But I mean, I think there's a difference between. I mean, you tell me. You feel like people look at you differently now as opposed to when you were working at Channel 9 and just doing the radio thing?
Like in what way?
Like you're not in the trenches with us anymore. Like,
the media people?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if they look at me different. They probably.
Does it even? Do you care? Does it bother you? I mean,
people get it, right? I mean, you get what my job is.
You're not going around saying I'm just as important as anyone else in the media. I mean, you're not.
I understand what your job is, and John Hoover's job is, and Dean Blevins, and it's different than mine. You understand that my job is different. I think. I mean, I don't think people expect me to show up on that Tuesday show with Bob and say, all right, let's go.
Why didn't you
Jordan
pass
Thomas, let's go. Joe Mixon, let's go. I mean, I think people get it. That's a different show, and all that stuff is going to take place when you guys are with him because that's your job. Mm-hmm. And my job in the title says Sooners. I mean, I'm on his team.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not going to. Hopefully, I can get good information out of him, and hopefully, I can get insight. And if he wants to break some news on that show, great. And I think I'm willing to chase. If he asks something, let's say they didn't. They fumbled the ball a couple of times. I'm willing to ask him about what's going on with the fumbling and stuff like that. But I'm not going to pin him against the wall
badgering him,
and say, that's his show. It's not.
The accusatory questions are not happening on that, and they're usually not happening in press conference because
they shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it happens though. I mean, some people like to use that.
No, I mean they shouldn't
grandstand.
on that show. On my show, they shouldn't. That's not the place for it.
Yeah,
press conferences, sure. I mean, I used to ask those questions, not as well as you, but
I don't ask. I mean, I'm just a.
You're not afraid. You've got more. You've got more huevos than I do.
I think I know Bob well enough to ask him in a way that doesn't get him, because like if you
he does like you. Why does he like you?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Don't you feel like he does like you though? He calls you by name. He doesn't call everybody by name.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like it's interesting because I've been there for so long and I've seen he was surly for so long. Like there was no give. It was all.
He's changed.
He's changed tremendously, and I think it's a great thing. And I find it both funny and slightly endearing, and also just weird. Like, so you like me now, but we used to be. I would have to find myself in press conferences in the past, like I would find myself okay. You need to shut up because you are arguing with Bob Stoops in the middle of a press conference now. And I would literally catch myself doing that, and I would just give up because I didn't want to be that big of a jackass. But yeah, it is different now because there's not a whole lot of contentiousness. And I think here's the thing I think with Bob is that he just wants you to be fair. He doesn't want you to take shots unnecessarily.
Right.
To feel like that you're, trying to get him or his program or somebody. I think he feels like I don't unnecessarily go out of my way to like
He thinks you're fair.
Grandstand, yeah. I try to be fair. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't hurt that you have some people, I think, and I won't name any names, that typically get under his skin on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And I'm not one of them. I'm glad not to be one of those. I do think that you need, in the media and the press conference setting, you need that guy. Dave Sittler was really good at being that guy. Mm-hmm. Barry Trammell, I think, has gone back and forth between being too much and not enough. And the whole thing about, I remember the question about Dusty Dvorak.
This is the whole podcast
cracking
right
skulls.
Here. Breaking down the OU media press conference. Media performances at the OU press conference. That's
I'm just saying,
podcast.
I mean, we're talking about Bob and why he reacts the way he does. I'm trying to explain it. Do you not want me to?
No, I do. I'm saying please don't stop. I'm saying this is a whole podcast.
We could make a whole podcast.
We could go person by person and analyze their performances.
See, and isn't it kind of cool that he's been around long enough that we can know him in this way? We don't really know him. Like, he's not inviting me over for barbecue, but I know kind of what makes him tick a little bit, and I think that's cool.
We understand his personality.
Yeah.
To a great extent, I think.
And how he deals with us. I mean, the media or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So,
he definitely has changed.
I don't know how many times you've dealt with him so far. Obviously, today you had a deal with him. You're going to have something with him tomorrow, I guess?
Yeah, we got the Sooner Sports Experience tomorrow night.
Has he seemed to even, in a better mood? Or I don't know.
Yes.
That's not the way to put it, but it just seems like he's in a great mood. Like nothing's bothering him. He's not waiting for someone to ask him some question he's going to jump down somebody's throat over.
No, I agree. He seems comfortable in his skin. He seems comfortable with his program. You're right. There's not that edginess to him right now that in the past maybe you have seen. But I think that's been something that has kind of broken down over time. He has gone from, in my opinion, in fact, we may have even talked about this on the Tuesday night show. He has gone, I think, from dreading those press conferences to embracing them. I think he looks forward to the give and take now.
Yeah. Which I always think he's been kind of interested in sparring with people to a degree.
It's that whole...
But there's been some lifting of the, I hate doing all this stuff. Like he somehow found a way to embrace media opportunities more.
Here's what I always tell. I get the opportunity to speak to college broadcast class quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell them about Bob. He is the greatest final exam you could ever have to be an interviewer. Like if you want to be in the world of media and you're taking an interviewing class or whatever, Bob's the greatest final exam you could have. No offense to Sherry Cole. I love Sherry Cole.
Yeah.
But I could ask Sherry Cole anything.
And it's going to be a good answer or a thoughtful answer.
She will give a brilliant answer. I could say, so, it's hot. She'll go and give you a brilliant answer.
Yeah.
If you ask Bob a bad question, he's going to tell you that's a bad question. Right?
He won't say that directly, but he'll
Sometimes
make you
he will.
feel so small that you'll realize you need to do better
He'll
next
either
time.
insinuate it's a bad question or he'll say, and he said before, come on, Toby, that's not a good question. You have to, that's why I think about that show so much, because you have to get a good answer out of him, you have to ask a good question. And if you ask a good question, he will give you gold.
Yeah.
But you've got to you can't just flop it out there. I mean, you can't just sloppily say, hey, third downs. And he's going to go, what
about third downs?
Is there a question there? I mean, but some coaches will. So I guess I appreciate that about him, but it also really makes you work. Yeah. And when that show's over on Tuesday nights, I sleep well.
Well, I think I've kept you long enough. Like I said, we could talk about, there's a million other things we could talk about.
Well, are they recruiting people? Are you even going to listen to this? Because this is no recruiting at all.
It's like a different, there's a lot of people really enjoyed the Jason Kersey podcast. I think people are going to love this podcast. I hope so. There are 80,000 people that show up to games, Toby.
I don't know if you know this. I don't go to your message boards.
And you shouldn't.
They scare me to death. The fact that you said that will probably make me not sleep well tonight.
Nobody rips on you.
It makes me believe
Look,
that
I'm telling you this.
There.
I will tell you this. Just with the general OU fan, your scene setters are legendary. Like people
They're accepted well.
That is, if anyone had any issues with you in the past, which I don't really think very many people did, like that, people love those. They repost them. They talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos.
Well, good. That makes me happy. It makes me happy.
Poet laureate Toby Rowland.
Got to be remembered for something, right?
I think you'll be remembered for more than just scene setters.
I got to go home now and try to figure out what to say about the opener.
The typical fan question, season prediction. Should I even ask you? What are you telling people on the radio? Because, by the way, I would love to say I listen to you every morning, but we're on at the same time, so I can't really.
You're a jerk.
I do catch you when you replay at 6 o'clock. I enjoy that.
I don't necessarily make predictions. Like I think they're going to go 10-2 or 11-1. But
Somebody's calling me. I hope it's not Bob Stoops.
Who see who it is?
Hold on.
See who it is. This is good. Can you make your way to your phone safely? Carey is heading across his living room now. This looks very much like an American Ninja Warrior obstacle course. There's a guitar he's just stepped around. There's a computer terminal in the middle of the living room floor. And he's almost back around the vacuum cleaner, and now he's seated. I just did play-by-play of you going across the living room and back.
I'm going to have that played at my funeral someday.
Yeah.
What's
who
the
was
636 area code? I did all that for nothing.
It wasn't as good as we hoped, I guess. I don't remember the question.
How was your play-by-play?
Well, you have to wait till the podcast comes out.
I can't wait to listen to this now. Mm-hmm. All right, Toby Rowland.
Thanks for having me on,
very
man.
special. Hey, thanks for coming over, man. I really do appreciate it. You look fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Can't wait to sit in press boxes that you're calling games in this fall.
When will we see each other in Houston, I guess?
Yeah, we'll see each other in Houston.
Okay. Well, I see.
Maybe
you.
I'll see you tomorrow night.
I will
don't know.
excitedly embrace you when I see you in Houston. And
Do we
all
have
the
to
other,
hug?
All the other radio people will look at us like, oh my God, they're breaking all kinds of rules right now.
Let's do that, Toby.
All right,
Let's
we'll do-
break all the rules.
We'll do that. All right.
All right,
seeing you,
man.
bud.
Thanks a lot.